some mornings are more dangerous than failures. They are the mornings when you wake up feeling nothing. Your eyes open, your body moves, your routine begins. But somewhere deep inside, a part of you has quietly surrendered. No one notices. You still smile. You still answer messages. You still tell people you're fine. But in the silence between one thought and the next, you know something has disappeared. And the question that keeps haunting you is this. If you don't wake up now, who will you become 1 year from today? I want you to stay with that question for a moment. Don't rush to answer it. Most people spend their entire lives running from questions that have the power to save them. They distract themselves with noise, with entertainment, with excuses that sound reasonable enough to silence their conscience for another day. But your conscience never truly falls asleep. It whispers when the world grows quiet. It reminds you that you were created for something greater than surviving another week. Deep inside, you already know the life you're living is smaller than the life you're capable of building. You see, success never disappears overnight. Neither does failure. Both are built in silence. One decision at a time, one habit at a time, one promise kept, or one promise broken. People imagine their lives collapse because of one dramatic event, but that's almost never true. A life falls apart the same way a house slowly decays. A tiny crack appears, then another. You ignore them because they don't seem urgent. Months later, the walls begin to shift. Years later, you wonder how everything collapsed. The collapse didn't begin when the roof fell. It began the day you stopped repairing the first crack, and maybe that's where you are today. Not completely broken, just filled with cracks nobody else can see. You carry disappointment like invisible weight. You remember the dreams that once made your heart race, the business you wanted to build, the body you promised yourself, the books you meant to read, the courage you hoped would someday arrive. At first, you believed time would solve everything. But time has an unusual habit. It never heals a life that refuses to change. It only magnifies whatever direction you're already moving. There is a painful truth that many people spend decades avoiding. The greatest prison is not built with steel bars. It is built with familiar routines. The alarm clock rings. You repeat yesterday. Tomorrow arrives. You repeat yesterday again. Eventually your future becomes nothing more than yesterday wearing different clothes. That's why so many people feel exhausted without accomplishing anything meaningful. They're not tired because they're working too hard. They're tired because they're carrying the unbearable weight of unrealized potential. I've often said that your life does not improve by chance. It improves by change. Those words sound simple until you realize what change actually demands. Change asks you to let go of the person you become comfortable being. And comfort is a fascinating thing. It rarely feels dangerous while you're inside it. It feels safe, predictable, familiar. But comfort has quietly stolen more dreams than hardship ever could. Hardship tests you. Comfort slowly convinces you to stop testing yourself. Think about the strongest version of yourself. Not the version people expect. Not the version you post online. The real one, the disciplined one, the courageous one, the one who finishes what he starts, the one who keeps his word even when no one is watching. That person already exists inside you. But every day you delay becoming that person, another version grows stronger instead. The version that negotiates with excuses, the version that promises, I'll start Monday, the version that mistakes wishing for working. The strange thing about excuses is that they sound intelligent when you're speaking them. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right opportunity, the right mood, the right motivation. Yet life keeps proving the same lesson over and over again. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline becomes a resident. If your future depends upon a feeling, your future will always remain uncertain. Feelings change with the weather. Character remains when feelings disappear. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to admire someone else's success while quietly doubting your own? You look at people who transform their lives and imagine they possess something you never received. Better timing, better connections, better luck. But what if the greatest difference wasn't talent? What if it was simply that they stopped negotiating with themselves? Every morning they chose action before confidence. Every evening they honored commitments instead of emotions. Their lives became extraordinary because their ordinary decisions became intentional. There is a battle happening inside every human being, and almost nobody talks about it honestly. It isn't the battle between you and the world. It's the battle between two identities. One identity wants immediate comfort. The other wants lasting significance. One whispers, rest a little longer. The other quietly asks, what kind of person are you becoming? Every decision feeds one of those voices. The frightening part is that whichever voice you feed today will speak louder tomorrow. Many people wait for rock bottom before they decide to rebuild. They believe pain must become unbearable before transformation begins. But wisdom teaches something different. You don't have to lose everything before you appreciate what still remains. Sometimes the greatest miracle is recognizing the warning before the collapse. Imagine discovering a small fire inside your home. Would you wait until the flames reach the roof before acting? Of course not. Yet people allow small habits to burn through years of opportunity while convincing themselves they'll change someday. Someday is one of the most expensive words ever invented. It has cost people their health, their marriages, their businesses, their purpose, and their peace of mind. Someday sounds hopeful, but it quietly steals today's responsibility. And the future has an unusual rule. It rewards those who respect the present. Every meaningful tomorrow is built by someone who finally decided that today mattered enough to deserve their best effort. I want to ask you something that may make you uncomfortable. Who have you been blaming for the life you're living? Your childhood? Your circumstances, your family, your boss, the economy? Listen carefully. Pain that happened to you may not have been your fault, but healing is now your responsibility. There comes a moment when maturity quietly enters your life and says, no one is coming to rescue you. That isn't bad news. It's freedom. Because if nobody else controls your future, then nobody else can prevent your transformation either. Responsibility has been misunderstood for far too long. People hear the word and imagine pressure. I hear possibility. The moment you accept responsibility, you reclaim power. You stop waiting for permission. You stop expecting perfect conditions. You stop measuring your life by what happened yesterday. Instead, you begin asking a better question. What can I do with what I have, starting now? That single question has rebuilt more lives than endless complaining ever could. You may feel behind. You may believe you've wasted too many years, but let me remind you of something beautiful about life. The calendar measures time. It does not measure determination. There are people who drift through 30 years without changing, and there are people who transform their entire destiny in 12 months because they finally become serious about who they are becoming. The difference is not age. The difference is decision. Every sunrise carries a message most people never hear. It says, yesterday has finished its work. Whether yesterday was filled with victories or regrets, it no longer has authority unless you carry it into today. Yet countless people wake up every morning wearing yesterday's failures like heavy chains. They replay old mistakes until those memories become predictions. But your past was meant to become a teacher, never a permanent address. You cannot rebuild your life while constantly rehearsing the person you used to be. Every time you say, I've always been this way, you quietly hand your future over to your history. Identity is not a prison sentence. It is a choice repeated often enough to become believable. The person you are today was built by repeated decisions. The person you become tomorrow will be built exactly the same way. So before this day slips away like so many before it, I want you to make one silent promise to yourself. Not a promise driven by excitement, but one rooted in conviction. Promise that you will no longer betray your own potential for temporary comfort. Promise that you will stop waiting for life to become easier and begin becoming stronger instead. Because the most extraordinary rebuilding never starts with a miracle. It starts with a decision so quiet that nobody else hears it, except the person in the mirror. And here's the mystery that almost no one discovers until it's too late. The hardest part of rebuilding your life is not changing your habits. It is facing the version of yourself that has been secretly holding you back all along. That hidden enemy doesn't live outside you. It speaks with your own voice. It knows every fear, every excuse, every wound you've tried to bury. In the next part, we're going to expose that voice, understand why it has controlled so much of your life, and learn how to silence it before it steals another year you can never get back. There is an opponent you have carried for years, and the strange thing is that it has never needed to shout. It doesn't have to. It has learned to whisper with your own voice. It tells you to wait a little longer. It reminds you of every mistake you've ever made. It convinces you that your failures define you more than your possibilities. The greatest deception is not that this voice exists. The greatest deception is that you've mistaken it for the truth. But today, I want you to look at that voice differently. It is not your identity. It is only the echo of old fears that have been repeated so often they began to sound familiar. You see, every person carries two stories. One is written by circumstances, the other is written by decisions. Circumstances may explain where you started, but they never get the final sentence. Too many people spend years reading the first story over and over again. They become experts on their disappointments. They memorize every betrayal, every rejection, every missed opportunity. Yet they never begin writing the second story, the one where courage quietly replaces resentment and purpose slowly overcomes pain. Life changes the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "Who can I become because of it?" Pain has an unusual way of introducing itself. At first it arrives as an unwanted visitor. Then, if you aren't careful, it becomes a permanent roommate. You decorate your thoughts around it. You build your routines around it. You lower your expectations because disappointment feels more predictable than hope. But listen carefully. Pain is a chapter. It is not the entire book. If you allow yesterday's wounds to dictate tomorrow's choices, then the people and moments that hurt you continue controlling your future long after they have disappeared. There are men and women listening to these words who have been abandoned, overlooked, underestimated, or forgotten. Somewhere along the journey, they began believing that what happened to them revealed their worth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Your value has never been determined by another person's inability to recognize it. Diamonds remain valuable even when buried beneath dirt. Gold does not become worthless because someone mistakes it for ordinary stone. Your circumstances may have hidden your potential, but they have never destroyed it. The problem is that the world rewards appearances while transformation begins in places nobody can see. People celebrate the trophy but ignore the lonely mornings that earned it. They admire confidence without witnessing the thousands of private decisions that slowly built it. They see discipline as talent because they never observed the quiet battles fought before sunrise when no audience was watching and no applause was waiting. That's why rebuilding your life will often feel invisible at first. The roots grow long before the tree reaches the sky. One of the greatest lies ever accepted is that confidence comes before action. It really does. Confidence is usually the reward for keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you will wake up earlier and actually do it, confidence grows. Every time you finish what you started, confidence grows. Every time you refuse to surrender to excuses, confidence grows. It is not built by positive thinking alone. It is built through evidence. You become convinced of your own strength because you repeatedly witness yourself acting with strength. Think about how often people wait until they feel ready. They believe readiness is something that arrives like perfect weather. But readiness is created by movement. Imagine standing beside the ocean, waiting for the waves to disappear before learning to swim. You would spend your entire life standing on the shore. Life works the same way. Challenges never vanish before you begin. You become stronger because you step into them, not because they politely step aside. I have learned that success is less about extraordinary moments and more about ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. Anyone can be inspired for a day. Anyone can feel motivated after hearing powerful words. But transformation belongs to those who continue after inspiration fades. The real test begins when nobody reminds you, when no video is playing, when no one is encouraging you, when the only voice left is your own. In those quiet moments, your habits reveal what your heart truly believes. There is another trap you must avoid if you intend to rebuild your life. It is the temptation to compare your journey with someone else's timeline. Comparison quietly poisons gratitude. It convinces you that your progress doesn't matter because someone else seems farther ahead. But you are measuring a story whose beginning you never witnessed. We have no idea how many nights they doubted themselves, how many failures they buried, how many sacrifices they made while everyone else was sleeping. Stop comparing your chapter 3 with someone else's chapter 20. The only race that matters is between the person you were yesterday and the person you choose to become today. Let me tell you something remarkable about discipline. Most people see it as punishment. They imagine sacrifice, restriction, and endless effort. But discipline is actually one of the greatest expressions of self-respect. Every disciplined decision whispers, "My future matters." Every healthy choice says, "I believe tomorrow deserves today's effort." Every completed task declares, my dreams are more important than my temporary emotions. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the path that leads to it. Your emotions are wonderful servants, but terrible leaders. There will be mornings when you don't feel like getting out of bed. There will be evenings when quitting sounds reasonable. There will be days when progress seems invisible and doubt becomes louder than hope. Those moments are not signs that you're failing. They are invitations to strengthen your character. Anyone can continue when the path feels easy. Greatness is revealed when your commitment survives discomfort. Sometimes rebuilding requires more than adding new habits. Sometimes it demands removing old identities. You cannot carry the mindset of defeat into the future you dream about creating. You cannot speak like a victim while expecting to live like a victor. The language you use about yourself slowly becomes the architecture of your life. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are lazy, broken, unlucky, or incapable, your mind will quietly search for evidence to support those beliefs. But if you begin saying, I am becoming disciplined, I am becoming resilient, I'm becoming stronger every day, your actions slowly begin aligning with those words. Remember, I did not say you should pretend everything is perfect. Honesty is essential. Acknowledge your weaknesses. Admit your mistakes. Accept responsibility. But never confuse honesty with hopelessness. There is a profound difference between saying, I have struggled, and saying, I will always struggle. One statement describes a season. The other creates a prison. Refuse to imprison yourself with permanent conclusions drawn from temporary circumstances. Every meaningful achievement begins long before the world notices it. There is always a season of obscurity. Seeds are buried before they bloom. Foundations are poured before skyscrapers rise. Muscles ache before they grow stronger. Character develops the same way. You will spend days wondering whether your effort matters. You will question whether anyone sees your progress. Let me assure you of this. The most important person watching is the one you meet every morning in the mirror. Each promise you keep strengthens the respect between you and yourself. Respecting yourself changes everything. When you truly value who you are becoming, certain choices become easier. You stop chasing approval because you are too busy earning your own respect. You stop fearing temporary discomfort because you have tasted the satisfaction that follows perseverance. You stop allowing distractions to dominate your attention because your purpose has become more attractive than your excuses. Suddenly, the life you once admired from a distance begins to move closer with every intentional step. Never underestimate the power of one disciplined day. It may seem ordinary while you're living it. One workout, one chapter read, one honest conversation, one healthy meal, 1 hour of focused work. None of these actions appear life-changing by themselves. Yet life is not transformed by isolated events. It is transformed by repeated choices that quietly reshape your identity. Brick by brick, decision by decision, a completely different future begins to rise where an ordinary day once stood. And here's something few people realize. Every excuse you overcome weakens the version of yourself that has kept you trapped. Every promise you keep strengthens the version capable of extraordinary things. Little by little, the fearful voice loses its authority. The courageous voice gains confidence. Eventually, what once felt impossible begins to feel natural. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. One morning, you'll wake up and realize something incredible has happened. The person who once searched for motivation has become a person driven by purpose. The individual who once feared discipline now protects it like treasure. The one who constantly doubted their future now creates it with intention. That transformation will not happen in a single dramatic moment. It will happen quietly, almost invisibly, through hundreds of faithful decisions that no one applauded, but that changed everything. But there is one final lesson, perhaps the most important lesson of all. Even after you've rebuilt your habits, your confidence, and your discipline, one challenge still remains. It is the challenge that has broken more successful people than failure ever has. It is the silent danger of protecting the new life you've built without falling back into the old one. And in the final part, we'll uncover how to make your transformation permanent, how to become the kind of person who never needs to start over again, and how to live each day with the quiet strength that no circumstance can ever take away.